Member John Lee.
Present.
That's 4 members and a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Thank you so much. For today's meeting, we will first start by taking public comment on individual agenda items, multiple agenda items, as well as general public comments. Our goal is to get as many speakers as possible. We will move through the agenda after that, one agenda item at a time, listen to staff presentations, and vote on items accordingly. There are additional rules for public comment that will be read by the clerk at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-644-6631. Again, that's meeting ID number 161-644-6631, and then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. During public comment, city staff will call on members of the public by the last 4 digits of their phone number. By pressing star 9, callers raise their virtual hand to request to speak. Once the caller hears the last 4 digits of their phone number, an automated Zoom voice will ask the caller to press star 6 to unmute themselves when it is their turn to speak. Once the caller is ready to speak, they must state their name and the item they are calling to speak on. Failure to do so will result in the call being muted and subsequently disconnected. Appellants and/or their representatives and applicants and/or their representatives will be allowed to speak for a total of 3 minutes per side unless otherwise noted by the chair. Members of the public wishing to speak on one agenda item only shall have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. Members of the public wishing to speak on more than one item shall state that and shall be allowed to speak for a total of 2 minutes. Failure to raise your hand to speak in a timely manner before the public comment period for the item ends results in forfeiture of the opportunity to participate in public comment for the item. Ms. City Attorney, please provide additional guidance on public comment.
Terry Kaufman, Messiah, City Attorney's Office. When speaking on agenda items, you must be on topic. As stated, our goal is to get through all speakers. If you're not speaking on topic, or if the committee cannot tell whether you are speaking on an agenda item, you will receive 1 warning. If you do not immediately and clearly return to the topic, or if you continue to stray off topic and disrupt the meeting, you will forfeit the rest of your time, and we will move on to the next speaker, and you will be informed when your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we go to public comment, I want to note for the record that the 5th member of the committee is present, the Venerable Mark Ridley Thomas of Leimert Park. Go to public comment.
We have 11 callers on the queue who've raised their hand.
11? Mm-hmm. All right, so we will have 20 minutes for public comment.
Okay. Caller with the number ending in 1075.
Hello, my name is Estella Suarez Hamilton. I would like to make a general public comment, please.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. In regard to the vaccine ordinance on the 11th, Nuri Martinez said, "Your rights just do not work for me anymore." This reminded me of the type of rhetoric used in the eugenics movement of 1913. On June 13th, 1913, California passed a law stating that anyone who is afflicted with hereditary insanity or incurable chronic mania or dementia could be sterilized. In 1915, San Francisco promoted positive eugenics as a way to counter race degeneracy. They warned against the moron girl and those who were abnormal as a biological threat. Eugenics was integrated into the curriculum of California public schools. Textbooks contained evidence supporting the cause. Now, the eugenics movement actually deported about 37 immigrants per year who were mentally defective. About half of them were Mexican and Filipino. This eugenics movement was the inspiration to people like Adolf Hitler. You must stop this runaway
Thank
train
you, caller. That's your
before
time.
it destroys ethical balance.
Mr. Chair, could you please remind folks that comments have to be, public comment is not everything, it's things before this committee.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Blumenfeld. And we ask members of the public to recognize that public comment in this committee is for topics that are germane to this committee's business, which eugenics and vaccinations, as far as I know, are not. Thank you, Mr. Blumenfield.
Caller with the number ending in 7848.
Good afternoon, members of the Plum Committee. My name is Felipe Cáceres. I'm with SEIU Local 721 and the USC Forward Coalition. Can you all hear me?
Caller, we can hear you. You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, again, my name is Felipe Cáceres. I'm with the USC Forward Coalition and SEIU Local 721. We represent countless members in the area with regards to item 11 and 12, the Hyatt House appeal. We are supporting the appeal and the mitigation terms that Eastside Leads and our partners at the USC Forward Coalition have been putting forward, and we would like to also thank the councilman for bringing the parties together and trying to begin a dialogue between USC and the community. Our coalition feels very strongly that many of our demands have not been met, but in good faith have worked with the councilman with regards to trying to at least address some of the development issues on this specific Hyatt House development and a new hotel in the east side. We would ask that the committee give this group another 2 weeks to try and address some of these factors that we feel
Thank
are
you, caller.
extremely
That's your
important
time.
before an initial sit down. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 4519.
Hi, my name is Sarah Clendenning, President of Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. I'd like to comment on item 12 in general public comment.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, hello. Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council represents 39,000 stakeholders in Lincoln Heights. On August 5th, Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council voted to deny the entitlements for the USC Hyatt Hotel alcohol licenses. The USC Hyatt Hotel is already built, but it's directly across from Lincoln Park, and it's near Bravo High School. We're concerned about the commercialization of our public assets. Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council also wrote a community impact statement in support of this appeal by Eastside Leads and SEIU. Yeah. As far as eugenics goes, in the 70s, LAUSD practiced coerced/forced sterilizations on hundreds of women from the east side. Yeah, all right. The council opposes these entitlements for alcohol license. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1403.
All items, massa, and general public comment.
I think this person's phone is broken.
Caller with the number ending in 9259. Caller with the number ending in 9259. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, caller. Can you state which items you're speaking on?
Yes, speaking on item number 6, I'm Daniel Brin, representing the West Hills Neighborhood Council. The agenda states that there was no community impact statement submitted, but there was, and so with your permission, I'd like to read the 257 words of it. Is that possible?
Caller, you have 1 minute.
Okay, all right. The San Fernando Valley has had a rich history of the pastoral and agricultural heart of Los Angeles. Although growth and urbanization has transformed the valley into a melting pot of suburban Los Angeles, the trees that were planted by the early pioneers and ranchers remain to tell the story. leading up to this is especially the case in West Hills, where the palm trees that line March Avenue between Ingomar and Justice Streets are cherished for their beauty and historic significance, including being featured in numerous television shows, including the 1976 film Bad News Bears. The West Hills Neighborhood Council asked the City Council to view this this application for historicultural monument status, and we thank you for your cooperation and your assistance. Thank you very much.
Caller with the number ending in 6446.
I would like to speak on 4, 5, 11, and 12.
You
I
have
support
2
the
minutes.
designation of the Centro de Arte Público and Mexicano art as historic cultural monuments. The designation will serve as an important reminder of the history of the Chicano movement in Highland Park and the artists who contributed to it with their creativity. Centro de Arte Público also housed Chisme Arte that featured Chicano writers and was a driving force for Chicana feminism. Chicana feminists saw that sexism within the Chicano movement walked hand in hand with the racism perpetrated on people of color, and insisted that both racism and sexism be addressed at the same time. This was an inspiration for a generation of Latinas who fought against sexism. It is essential that the history of these organizations not be erased. Please support the designation. On 11 and 12, I support the statements of the SEIU representative and the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. Thank you very much, and please support the designation of Mexicano art and Centro de Arte Público. Thank you.
Sure, you can call back, sir. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1026.
Hi, my name is Amy Gastincic, and I'm speaking on agenda item number 10.
You have 1 minute.
I'm the president of the Los Feliz Improvement Association. LFIA advocates for the residents of Los Feliz and is an appellant in this matter. For over a century, LFIA has played a vital role in determining the future of the Los Feliz area. The LFIA successfully prevented zoning changes that would have allowed unsightly commercial real estate development along Los Feliz Boulevard. LFIA oversaw the construction of John Marshall High School and many attractions in Griffith Park, and LFIA today continues to advocate for sensible development in our community. Unfortunately, the project before you bears no relationship to sensible development and would establish precedent for further out-of-scale projects to be constructed throughout Los Feliz. LFIA also has questions regarding the applicant's role in the bribery scandal that has engulfed City Hall. This is of particular concern since 2 of this body's former members have been identified as receiving such bribes, raising legitimate concerns in the eyes of the public about this committee's culpability. For these reasons, we ask that this project's approval be put on permanent hold. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 7272.
Hello, this is Sarah Vellis, a longtime resident in the area. I hope you can hear me. I'd like to speak about the project at 806 West Adams Boulevard, which I believe is item 14.
You have 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Sarah Vellis. Thank you to the Plum Committee for hearing these comments. I've lived in the area for almost 2 decades. I'm a local, born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm involved in a number of nonprofit cultural organizations. And from living here, I've noticed that density and parking is a huge issue. And this project, as proposed, is going to have a really negative impact on our neighborhood. We need more studies done about adequate parking and resulting traffic issues. And a 4-story structure is just not compatible for the neighborhood on 7th Street. It actually turns out that students seem to have cars just as much or more than other types of residents. So I strongly urge the committee to pursue additional traffic study and other parking issues related to this project. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1403. One, 403. Please press *6 to unmute. Caller with the number 5915.
Hi, my name is Doug Haynes. I'd like to speak on item number 10 and also general public comment, please.
You have 2 minutes.
First off, Amy from LFIA is an appellant in this matter, so she should not be speaking during general public comment period. She should be called during the hearing itself on agenda item number 10. Second, the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council strenuously opposed this project. Third, I hope that the representative from CD13 is listening, because the fact that this project is back on the agenda is a terrible reflection on the council district and also the city. As noted, the developer is Carmel Partners, the entity that bribed several council members and their staff, a city planning commissioner, deputy mayor, and others in what the FBI described as a criminal enterprise. For only 3 units additional of affordable housing from the 14 area right there, this developer is receiving a huge number of entitlements that are not justified and are incompatible with the existing zoning. For general public comment, I want to point out that by denying us an opportunity to speak during the agenda item when it's called, we are denied an opportunity to hear the arguments made by the applicant, to hear the arguments made by city planning, and hear the arguments made by the appellants. And so we do not have an opportunity to comment on those in order to bring you the information you need to make a decision on this matter. Thank you.
Is my phone working now? Can I speak?
You have 1 minute.
Or are you gonna keep lying? How about 2 minutes, amigo? How about 2 minutes? All items in general comment. My phone ain't broken, bro.
Caller, your time has started.
You know, you've been defrauding me out of my time to speak, Gil. He's been defrauding me out of my time to speak, claiming my phone's been broken. I brought it to my phone place. They kept saying it was bad. But I believe Marchese. Marchese, you lie. My phone worked fine. How come you saying my phone don't work fine? And don't I get 2 minutes? Don't I get all the general items? I want to compliment Gil Cedillo on his items. 5 and 6, and you won't let me do it. You don't want no one to speak. You guys are goddamn stupid, you know that? My phone's not having problems. What? 30 witnesses heard you this time, and it's being memorialized, available for everybody, including the FBI, because you're Weezer 2.0. That's why I call you Weezer 2.0. Remember, everybody on the council, don't chair Plum, or you'll wind up like Mr. Weezer eventually, because there's too much money they stuff in your goddamn pockets when you chair Plum. $100 bills on your shorts and your jacket and your car and your shirts and everything. Thousands and thousands of dollars in cash they give you those fucking entitlements to every fucking project. All you developers own this fucking city, and a poor little black man like myself living in a fucking car can't get more than 2 goddamn fucking minutes, goddamn talk at a goddamn meeting at goddamn 2 o'clock. I'm fucking shocked. Now, come on, man. Who's going to stand up for little people like me? How about you, Bob Bleebenbleel? Oh, no, I can't. I'm raising money. How about you, Gil?
That's your time. That's your time.
How about you, John?
8070.
Hello, Rosalind Sagara, speaking on items 4 and 5.
You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, members of the Plum Committee. This is Rosalind Sagara with Los Angeles Conservancy to express support for the historic cultural monument nominations of Centro de Arte Público and Mexicano Art Center in Highland Park. Both properties were instrumental components of the Chicano movement, expanding and translating the political, social, and cultural ideas of the movement through art. Both properties have been identified in Surveil's Latino Los Angeles Historic Context Statement under the theme Cultural Development and Institutions, and meet eligibility criteria for the properties significant for their associations with important developments in the history of Latinos in the visual arts in Los Angeles. These nominations document a more inclusive history of LA and highlight Highland Park's important role in the development of Chicano arts and artists in Los Angeles. We urge you to recommend landmark designation for both of these properties. Thank you.
Five 5514.
Hello, my name is Sarah Botcher. I'm calling to comment on item 14, which is the development at 806 West Adams. I wish to express multiple concerns about the negative impacts of this development. I live in the neighborhood approximately 1 block north of the site. My home is an LA Cultural Historic Monument, and this development in general is located within a remarkable historic neighborhood north of USC, including landmark historic properties on Adams, on Severance, and many others. It's also adjacent to the University Park Historic Overlay. And the rendering of the proposed project shows that its design is completely out of character with the neighborhood. Another concern is that the density of housing is appropriate for student housing. It's not family housing. There's a lack of adequate parking, and the presence of what is essentially a student dormitory will be accompanied by consequent problems of noise from parties and other social events, problems that we have dealt with in the neighborhood for many years and will only now get worse. The design is at odds with several plans for the neighborhood, including the Neighborhood Stabilization Ordinance, the NSO, and the
Caller 1115. Caller with the number ending in 1115. Please press *6 to unmute.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking on items number 11 and number 12. Council members, my name is Corinne Tapia, and I'm a longtime resident and small business owner of Council District 14. I'm here to speak in support of any and all amenities related to the Hyatt House Hotel and USC Conference Center. This space is a welcome addition to our community. In a time when local businesses are devastated by the ongoing pandemic, our support of the local economy is more crucial than ever. The Hyatt House Hotel and USC Conference Center serves hospital patients, their visiting family members and loved ones, medical professionals, and local community members. This is a world-class center located at USC Keck, where there are no nearby homes around. Hyatt House is one of the only extended stay hotels of its kind on the east side, and the conference center will provide new facilities for the community, serving special events and gatherings for people to host weddings, quinceañeras, family events, and meetings. Not to mention, those same patrons would give our local businesses foot traffic, which is needed more than ever. Simply put, our community needs new amenities like this hotel. Often we travel outside our neighborhood into downtown Los Angeles to get the same services. The Hyatt House team and USC have been proactive community partners, and we look forward to this welcome addition to our neighborhood. Thank you.
That concludes our 20 minutes allotted for public comment.
All right, I see a hand on our Zoom screen for the city attorney. Is that on purpose? Or is that a yellow sticker on your wall? Maybe that's what that is.
I don't know if it's a yellow sticker, but I don't have my hand up.
Got it,
So
okay. All right, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's called in. We'll begin our business with three items, items 1, 2, and 3. There are requests from the council office and/or the mayor's office to continue those. So if we could read the dates that those will be continued until, and we will adopt that action on consent.
Committee members, item 1, the request is to continue it to October the 5th, 2021. Item 2, the request is to continue it to September the 14th, 2021. And item 3, the request is to continue it to October the 5th, 2021.
Thank you so much. Without objection, that'll be the order. Then we have 4 additional items, items 4, 5, 6, and 7. Items 4, 5, 6, and 7. After those items are read into the record, Mr. Mejia, the chair is requesting that we adopt those items on consent.
Yes. Item 4, committee members. This is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Centro de Arte Público as a historic cultural monument, along with the categorical exemption. The recommended action is to approve it. Item 5, again, contains a categorical exemption, a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Mexicano Art Center as a historic cultural monument. The recommendation is to approve the inclusion. Item number 6, this is again a categorical exemption, a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the March Avenue palm trees located on North March Avenue in CD 12 as a historic cultural monument. The recommendation is to approve the inclusion. And item number 7, this is a report from the City Administrative Officer requesting to reappropriate funds within the Development Services Trust Fund to the Department of Building and Safety for new task orders in support of the Build LA project. Recommendation therein is to approve the CAO recommendations. Councilman.
Thank you so much. You want to call the roll on those items?
Yes.
Mr. Mejia?
Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson as chairman.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas. I see the councilman, but I don't hear any sound.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Yeah.
Yay or nay?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to get this vote in.
Vote with the chair, sir. Vote with the chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if you could record me as affirmative, I'd appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Indeed.
finally, Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
And that's 5 members and unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. That takes us to item number 8.
Yes, item 8, this is a categorical exemption. It's a report from the Planning Commission and an appeal filed by Fix the City by Ms. Laura Lake. She's appealing the environmental clearance for the construction of a 7-story, 31 residential unit project, which reserves 4 units for extremely low-income households located in CD5.
Excellent. We have a report from Department of City Planning.
Yes. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Jennalee Oberkville from the Planning Department. Item 8 is a CEQA appeal of a transit-oriented communities project for a 31-unit apartment building in Westwood, reviewed under EMV 2019-2790 CE1A. The CEQA appeal was filed by an aggrieved party represented by Laura Lake of Fix the City. The appellant raised several appeal points in opposition of the project regarding CEQA findings being inconsistent with the general plan and inadequate evidence that the property can be adequately served by required utilities and public services. The site is zoned C4 1VL POD and designated for neighborhood office commercial land uses along commercial corridor along Westwood Boulevard and is currently improved as a vacant surface parking lot, which will be removed. What is before Plum is the CEQA appeal of the TOC project. Staff transmitted to the council file a letter to Plum with staff responses to the appeal points raised. However, we would like to highlight a few for your attention. The appellant contends that the project is not consistent with the general plan, including Westwood Community Plan and Westwood POD. However, as provided in the staff report, the project is consistent with the above, including the land use and zoning regulations allowed with transit-oriented communities affordable housing incentives program. The city made findings of consistency with the general plan, community plan, TOC program, and applicable policies and regulations when approving the project, and no new substantial evidence has been raised by the appellant regarding the analysis. The appellant also contends that the project is not eligible for Class 32 categorical exemption, as detailed in the Director's determination, the City Planning Commission's determination, and the rest of the administrative record. The city has provided substantial evidence to support its determination that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15332, Class 32. And there is no substantial evidence demonstrating that an exception to a categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines, Class 32, section 15300.2 applies. Nothing in CEQA prohibits the use of Class 32 exemptions for TOC projects, and the appellant has not provided any legal authority to support its claim that TOC projects are not eligible for Class 32 exceptions. In conclusion, the appellant has failed to meet its burden of proof, as no new substantial evidence was presented showing the city erred in its actions relative to the categorical exemption. Therefore, planning staff recommends that Plum and City Council deny the CEQA appeal and determine based on the whole of the administrative record that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15332, as a Class 32 infill development project. And there is no substantial evidence demonstrating that an exception to a categorical exemption applies. That concludes staff presentation, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll hear from our appellant. Fix the City for 3 minutes.
Laura Lake, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Lake, representing Fix the City. This is a CEQA appeal and not about the merits of the TOC program. The appeal is based on 2 fundamental points. First, discretionary approval with conditions of approval trigger CEQA review. The second is inadequate infrastructure and emergency services, especially water. The staff report for the TOC guidelines stated on page A10, because approval of any additional incentive would require discretionary approval, this would also trigger CEQA review. This is correct, but it has been ignored by DCT. When a TOC project, or any project, seeks discretionary approval, it cannot be granted a Class 32 categorical exemption. 3 discretionary incentives were approved for this project, and they were conditioned by the department. Conditions of approval reflect the presence of discretion and control, therefore making this project ineligible for a categorical exemption. Furthermore, the city's claims of adequate infrastructure and emergency services were not supported by substantial evidence. News reports of reservoirs at record lows, and now today the Colorado River, we do not have adequate water supplies. The governor has ordered voluntary drought restrictions, and we know what will follow. Under these circumstances, a Class 32 categorical exemption cannot be granted. Please grant this appeal and instruct DCP not to issue Class 32 exemptions for projects seeking discretionary incentives. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from our applicant for 3 minutes.
Michael Gonzalez, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Good afternoon, honorable council members. Michael Gonzalez, representing the applicant for the record. I couldn't disagree more with Ms. Lake that a categorical exemption from CEQA is not a degree of CEQA review. Yes, projects can become subject to CEQA, but Sacramento has created a class of projects that are determined to be exempt from CEQA if the findings required by the exemption are made. I think the record here overwhelmingly establishes that this project is urban, infill, consistent with the general plan and the city's policies at achieving the creation of affordable housing, which include the TOC program, or in fact, the program created by Sacramento, the density bonus program. Ms. Lake's position that CEQA review was not conducted is inaccurate. The city looked at the project, determined it could be subject to CEQA, and then made a finding that it qualified for the exemptions created by Sacramento. So proper CEQA review was conducted here in determining that the project was exempted under a Class 32 exemption. In terms of the general allegations that there's a lack of infrastructure, there's no substantial evidence in the record to support that conclusion. Ms. Lake submitted a document on the 13th of June, claiming to have submitted 26,000 pages of evidence regarding the inadequacy of infrastructure in connection with the Expo lawsuit administrative record. That is not the project before you here today. They have failed to meet the requirement that they provide substantial evidence to show that we do not make one of the findings. Moreover, there's no indication here by Ms. Lake or the appellant that the project does not qualify for the exemptions based on the exceptions to the CEQA exemptions, historic resources, very contaminated sites listed on the Cortese list, cumulative impacts. None of that is before you today. I think staff did a fantastic job of summarizing the inadequacy of the appeal, and I urge the council, this Plum Committee, excuse me, to support staff's recommendation and deny the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll hear comments from a representative of Council District 5.
Thank you, committee members. Daniel Skolnick for Councilmember Paul Koretz. The council office would support this appeal. However, we ask if city attorney could also provide clarification if whether or not we have substantial evidence that if in fact we do have the facts, reasonable assumptions predicated upon facts and expert opinion to support substantial evidence. If we do not have substantial evidence, though, we ask that the appeal be denied. Thank you, committee members.
All right. There's been a direct inquiry to the city attorney. Someone would care to respond to that?
So Terry Kaufman, Macias City Attorney's Office. So substantial evidence is a finding that the committee has to make, not the city attorney, based on the entirety of the administrative record before you. So it doesn't rely on speculation, and it doesn't rely on statements of experts that are not experts in the field that are at issue. So you need to look at the entirety of the record and make that determination.
All right. Mr. Skolnick, do you have anything further?
I don't have anything further. I would have to say that based on staff's recommendation from in their report to the committee, their analysis is, in fact, that we don't have substantial evidence in the record. If, in fact, we do not have substantial evidence and the committee agrees, then the recommendation would be to deny the appeal.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
This is Terry Kaufman, Macias. I don't understand the comment from Mr. Skolnick that staff said there's no substantial evidence. Staff said that the appellant didn't provide substantial evidence. I'm not sure if that's what he's saying now, because staff did.
Yeah, thank you, Madam City Attorney. Yes, I concur with that clarification. that staff said that there's no substantial evidence in the report to say that the categorical exemption is insufficient.
All right, any questions or comments from members of the committee on this item? Seeing none, I'll move that we deny the appeal filed by Fix the City and thereby sustain the determination of the Planning Commission in approving a categorical exemption as the environmental clearance for a proposed transit-oriented communities affordable housing project involving the construction of 7-story building, 31 residential units, reserving 4 for extremely low-income household occupancies for a period of 55 years, with a maximum building height of 75 feet for the property located at 1300 Westwood Boulevard. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Mejia, please call the roll.
Yes. Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's 5 members and unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. That takes us to item number 10.
9, Councilman?
Sorry, item number 9. I'm in a
Yes,
hurry.
sir. Item 9, it contains a categorical. Yes, item 9 contains a categorical exemption from CEQA, a report from the Planning Department, and an appeal filed by Margarita Lopez from the Coalition for Equitable Westlake MacArthur Park. This relates to a transit-oriented communities project with 74 dwelling units, reserving 9 units as affordable housing units located in CD 13.
All right. We have a report from Department of City Planning.
Yes. Good afternoon, Plum Committee. I am Kevin Golden, City Planner in the Expedited Processing section of the Planning Department. On March 10, 2021, the Director of Planning issued a Class 32 categorical exemption, CE 32, as the environmental clearance for a project consisting of the construction of a new 6-story, 74-unit project, an apartment building on one parcel comprised of one lot under the Transit-Oriented Communities, TOC, Affordable Housing Incentives Program. On April 27, 2021, the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, appeal was filed by Margarita Lopez of the Coalition for Equitable Westlake MacArthur Park. The appeal challenges the Director of Planning's determination that the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines. The CEQA guidelines provide that a CE 32 may not be used if any of 5 exceptions apply, and the exception at issue is cumulative impacts here. The appellant states that the project does not qualify for a CE 32 due to cumulative impacts of surrounding past, current, and future projects. There was one appeal point as follows, that the project would result in cumulative impacts. The coalition, as stated by the applicant, submits a list of past projects, current projects, and future projects spanning back to January 1st, 2017 that contribute towards the cumulative impacts of projects that must be considered. The projects are all within 1 mile radius of the subject property, and many have been approved. The area is within a mile radius of a heavily populated and high pedestrian and car traffic area. Now, staff's response to that is as follows. An agency's determination that a project falls within a categorical exemption includes an implied finding that none of the exceptions, including cumulative impacts, identified in the CEQA guidelines apply. The burden of proof is on the challenging party to produce evidence showing that one of the exceptions applies. Here, the appellant has not met its burden of proof that there is no evidence in the record to conclude that there will be cumulative impacts caused by the proposed project and other projects in this area. A list of past, current, or future projects, even if found to be accurate, by itself does not represent evidence of any type of cumulative impact. Speculation that significant cumulative impacts will occur simply because other projects may be approved in the same area is insufficient to trigger this exception. and is not evidence that the proposed project will have an adverse impact or that the impact is cumulatively considerable. As demonstrated in the CE 32 dated March 10, 2021, the proposed project and other projects in the vicinity are subject to regulatory compliance measures, otherwise known as RCMs, related to air quality, noise, hazardous materials, geology, and transportation. Numerous RCMs in the city's municipal code and state law provide requirements for construction activities and ensure impacts from construction relative to air quality, noise, traffic, and parking are less than significant. The CE 32 addresses all environmental impacts associated with the subject project. Additionally, the project will be required to comply with all state, regional, and local laws as part of this regulatory compliance. So in conclusion, based on the information in the record and considering the appellant's arguments for appeal, staff finds that the project meets the requirements for a Class 32 categorical exemption. Therefore, it is recommended that the City Council affirm that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA, deny the appeal of the Director of Planning's determination, and sustain the Director of Planning's determination in approving the TOC case for the proposed apartment building. So the official staff recommendation is as follows. Staff recommends that the Plum Committee recommend for council action to deny the submitted appeal and sustain the director's determination based on the whole of the administrative record that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15332, article 19, class 32, and there's no substantial evidence demonstrating that an exception to a categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15300.2 applies. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now we'll hear from our appellant.
Claudia Medina, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Yes, I just unmuted. Good afternoon. This is Claudia Medina on behalf of petitioner. We submitted our comments in writing, so I won't be repetitive. One thing I do want to add is that these TOC projects that depend on an expectation of increased public transportation usage, there's no analysis of the dramatic decrease in public transportation ridership, the plummeting decrease in ridership due to COVID, and what expectations will be post-COVID if at some point we get there. And I find these hearings pretty perfunctory in terms of I already know what the Plum Committee is going to do, which is deny the appeal, so therefore I'll just keep it short. And like I said, I already submitted our comments in writing. I have nothing more to add at this point.
All right, now we'll hear from our applicant.
Thomas Giordano, can you please press star 6 to unmute? Thomas Giordano. Thomas, can you please press star 6 to unmute? Daniel Friedman, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Hi, good afternoon, council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, honorable council members, members of the Plum Committee. Thank you so much for your time. Nice to speak with you all. My name is Daniel Friedman. I'm with the law offices of Jeffrey Mangles, Butler and Mitchell. We represent the applicant and the owner here. Since the appellant seems to know that you guys are going to deny it already, I don't think there's much for me to say other than I agree with the appellant. I hope you guys do deny it. We think, we reviewed the claims submitted in the appeal, and the reason why I believe the appellant is of the opinion you will deny it is because there really is not a basis for this appeal. There is no factual basis, no substantial evidence to support its claim. The categorical exemption stands on its own. I want to thank staff, the Department of City Planning, for doing an excellent job on this project and on its analysis of this appeal. With respect to these kind of last-minute comments relating to transportation, those comments are, by definition, the type of speculation CEQA does not consider. Speculation about what could potentially happen in the future based on no evidence whatsoever. That is speculation. That is not substantial evidence on the record to justify an appeal of a CEQA exemption. So with that said, thank you, council members. We urge you to deny this appeal, and I'm available if you have any questions whatsoever. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll now go to a representative of Council District 13.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Bullock with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. We concur with the Department of City Planning to deny the appeal for the reasons that Mr. Captain Golden so eloquently stated. Thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments, discussion on this item from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll move that we deny this appeal with the specific instructions, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, basically to deny the appeal, Mr. Chairman and committee members, filed by Margarita Lopez of the Coalition for an Equitable Westlake MacArthur Park, and thereby sustain the determination of the Director of Planning in approving the categorical exception as the environmental clearance for the proposed project, and as stated by City Planner Mr. Golden today.
Thank you so much. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's 5 members and unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. That takes us to item number 10.
Yes, item number 10 is a, Item 10 is a report from the Planning Commission and various appeals that have been filed by Abraham Segomian from the Los Feliz Preservation Coalition, Amy Gustanek from the Los Feliz Improvement Association, relative to the approval of a vesting tract map to merge and subdivide 5 lots into one for the construction of an 8-story apartment building consisting of 153 dwelling units, 17 units of which will be for extremely low-income households.
All right, we have a report from Department of City Planning.
Hello, committee. My name is Jason Hernandez with City Planning. On February 23rd and February 25th, 2021, 2 appeals were filed for case number VTT 82654-1A by the previous appellants at the City Planning Commission level. This appeal mainly relies on the same arguments and information as presented in the appellant's previous letters to the city and first level appeal. As stated in staff's response letter to the Plum Committee dated May 6, 2021, the city has already adequately provided detailed and full responses to each of the appeal points in the City Planning Commission appeal report dated January 14, 2021. Nonetheless, the following represents a summary of those responses given by staff for the CEQA appeal points and the tract appeal points. The appellant contends that the project is inconsistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of the Vermont Western SNAP specific plan and the Hollywood Community Plan. However, the project is consistent with these provisions for both the Hollywood Community Plan and the Vermont Western SNAP, specifically where you see the subdivision of land is regulated pursuant to Article 7 of the LAMC. specifically Section 1705C, which requires that the vesting tentative tract map be designed in compliance with the zoning regulations applicable to the project site. The project was approved for a TOC housing incentive program, which allows for greater density and floor area ratio in exchange for setting aside of affordable units. The project is considered consistent with the general plan land use designation and zoning based on its compliance with the TOC incentive program, as indicated in the letter of determination for the related DIR 2019-3760 TOC SPP SPR case dated August 5th, 2020. The proposed project complies with the goals, policies, and objectives of the Vermont Western SNAP and the Hollywood Community Plan. Next, the appellant contends that the TOC guidelines are illegal and therefore cannot be used as the basis for approving a vesting tentative tract map. Voter approved measure JJJ was officially adopted by the Los Angeles City Council as ordinance number 184745 on December 13, 2016. Measure JJJ codified the TOC Affordable Housing Incentive Program in LAMC Section 1222A31. The process for preparing and adopting the TOC incentive guidelines is in LAMC Section 1222A31B and C. Following the process outlined in the code, the Director of Planning prepared the TOC guidelines and then presented them to the City Planning Commission. The process followed for the adoption of the TOC guidelines is documented in the Department of City Planning case file, DIR 2017-1914 MSC. Measure JJJ did not include any requirement that the City Council adopted TOC guidelines by ordinance. That function was expressly delegated to the Director of Planning after receiving a recommendation from the City Planning Commission. Finally, the appellant contends that the design of the subdivision will likely cause serious public health problems. There is no substantial evidence in the record that the proposed map in conjunction with the TOC project will cause serious public health problems, nor has such evidence been provided by the appellants. Moreover, on a January 14, 2020 hearing, Council File number 19-1389, the City Council found that based on the whole of the administrative record, determined in their independent judgment that the project is statutory exempt from CEQA as a sustainable communities project, otherwise known as SCIPPY, pursuant to PRC 21155.1. In conclusion, upon careful consideration of the appellant's points, the appellants have failed to adequately disclose how the city erred or abused its discretion. In addition, no new substantial evidence was presented that city has erred in its actions relative to the vesting tentative tract map and the associated entitlements. Therefore, the appeals should be denied and the actions of the City Planning Commission should be sustained. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. We have multiple appeals on this item. We'll hear from our first appellant at this time.
Abraham Sogomonian, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hi, my name is Abraham Solomonian. I would like to cede my time to Carol Citroni, but I would also like to speak. So the bulk of the time will be given to Carol, but am I allowed later to make a comment, or can I make my comment now and make my 1-minute comment, and then Carol can continue?
It's you have 3 minutes. I would advise making your comment now and then leaving the balance of time for any other representative.
So we have so we have an underlying zoning, which is SNAP, and you're approving something that goes against the rules of SNAP. And you think you guys are being clever by using the TOC as a clever way to negate the underlying zoning of SNAP. The planning department is using the TOC, something that hasn't been approved by City Council, to approve projects that would otherwise never be approved. You admit in your report that it's widely out of scale, it's not compatible with the area, but it will be in the future. So basically what the goal is to destroy the place one step at a time. So you can't go around life not following rules, and you can't approve whatever you guys want whenever you feel like wanting it. There has to be something, and SNAP is the only thing that should be should be approved. So I ask you to please listen to the citizens and not do things that you guys want to do on your own. I think SNAP is the way. So I cede my time to Carol Citroni.
Carol Citrone, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Good afternoon. This is Carol Citroni from the Responsible Urban Development Initiative, or RUDI. How much time do I have?
You have 1 minute and 44
Hello?
seconds.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say that I was part of the appeal for not for the vesting tentative tract. However, I did prepare something to say in regards to the VTT today. This project before you is wildly out of scale. It fails to respect long-standing SNAP zone regulations put in place to protect our neighborhood. The TOC is always referred to as guidelines because it was never voted on by City Council nor properly codified into law. Yet this illegitimate program continues to degrade the intent and spirit of the SNAP zone and acts in direct conflict with the community plan, the specific plan, our underlying zoning, the city charter, and the California MAP Act. The planning report itself acknowledged the project is incompatible, but says that it may be compatible down the road when we can then compare it to upzone projects of the future, no doubt built with similar planning gymnastics and zone bashing. This argument only serves to bolster the unsound practices of spot zoning and piecemealing, where a lottery of entitlements and overreaching incentives serve to gentrify and displace, as it did in this case. It displaced many seniors and threatens to demolish rent-stabilized units. We fully reject the compatibility report for now and into the future. Please put this project on permanent hold and support the appeal and the protections in place for the SNAP zone. Thank you.
We have a second appellant? If not, we'll go to the applicant.
We heard both appellants just now.
Oh, those were both? Okay, excellent. We'll go to the applicant for the project.
Hello, committee. Actually, there is another, there's another appellant, Amy. So I believe the Abraham filed a appeal in conjunction with the person that we just heard. So there's still one more appellant.
Amy Gustanik, can you please press *6?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Hi, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks. So I did give a statement during public comment, so I won't repeat that. But again, I'm Amy Gustanik, and I'm representing the Los Feliz Improvement Association, and we've been advocating for the residents of the area for over 100 years. One of our goals is always to preserve the SNAP, and I'll just agree and not try to repeat everything that the previous appellant stated, but we are whittling away at the SNAP. We're degrading the SNAP little by little, and every time we approve a project that does that, it gives developers and city planning the ability to point to that project and say, oh no, we're not out of scale. Look at this thing that we've built already. So this project is wildly out of scale with the community. It's an 80% increase in the allowed density. It's a 33-foot height increase. And it is replacing the existing 14 rent-controlled residential units, destroying the feeling of the neighborhood and only giving us 3 additional rent-controlled units. And that's something that our community cannot abide by. We can't just let our community be destroyed for more luxury units. If we're gonna put more housing to help people, then it should be 100% affordable. And if we're only gaining 3 additional affordable units, that's not good enough to sacrifice our neighborhood for. Thank you.
All right, we'll hear from the applicant at this time.
Andrew Fogg, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Andrew Fogg, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Do we have our applicant?
Andrew Fogg, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Andrew Fogg from Cox Castle. I apologize for the delay in responding on behalf of the applicant Carmel Partners. We agree with staff's report and have nothing further to add. We are available for any questions you may have, but thank you very much for your consideration.
All right, do we have any comments from a representative of Council District 13? Mr. Bullock?
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Bullock with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. We concur with the staff recommendation and deny the appeal for the reasons that were so succinctly stated by Jason Hernandez. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion, questions, comments on this item from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll move that we deny the 2 appeals with special instructions that I will move once you've read them into the record, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, to deny the 2 appeals filed by Abraham Sughomian from the Los Feliz Preservation Coalition and Amy Kostanek from the Los Feliz Improvement Association, and thereby sustain the Planning Commission's approval of the vesting tract map for the merger and subdivision of 5 lots into 1 lot for the construction of an 8-story apartment building consisting of 153 dwelling units. 17 of the units will be for extremely low-income households. For the project situated at 4629 through 4651 West Maubert Avenue in CD 13, and as stated by City Planner Jason Hernandez for the record.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
And that's 5 members and unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. That takes us to item number 14, Mr. Mejia.
Okay, item 14, Mr. Chair and committee members. This is a categorical exemption and appeal filed by Jean Frost from the West Adams Heritage Association, and she's challenging the environmental clearance for the project, which is a 102-unit residential unit project with 5 very low-income units, and the project is situated in CD9.
Excellent. We have a report from Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon, council members. Sergio Ibarra with the Department of City Planning. On June 28, 2021, a CEQA appeal was filed by an aggrieved party, Jean Frost, on behalf of the West Adams Heritage Association to the City Council relative to the action of the South LA Area Planning Commission's adoption of the Class 32 categorical exemption, ENV-2018-2454-CE. On August 12th, supplemental findings in regards to the Class 32 categorical exemption were submitted by planning staff. For the reasons stated therein and the findings referenced there, the planning department finds that the proposed project does not qualify for the Class 32 categorical exemption based on the complete plan submitted by the applicant. A review of the record and considering the appellant's arguments for the appeal, staff has determined that the project does not satisfy CEQA guidelines section 15332 and the cumulative impacts exception. The appellant has raised new information to dispute the findings of the Class 32 categorical exemption, and planning staff concurs. Planning is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll hear from the appellant at this time for 3 minutes.
Jean Frost, can you please press *6 to unmute? Jean Frost, can you please press *6?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you, Ms.
Oh,
Frost.
thank you. This is Jean Frost. I'm speaking on behalf of the West Adams Heritage Association. I'm sorry, I have some technical problems here.
You got to turn off your device that you're listening on,
Yeah,
Jean, or else you're not going to be able to
I'm having
hear.
some problems here. So, okay.
You got to turn off your device, Ms. Frost, or else you won't be able to understand what's happening. And just talk into the phone.
Okay. Okay, I got it. I got it worked out now. Just give me 1 minute. Yes. Whoops. This is a very important and unique appeal. There are circumstances relevant to this. It is a 2.8 acre site in the heart of University Park. University Park is a very sensitive and fragile environment surrounded by historic properties, and most importantly, it is covered by an overlay, which is the Hoover Exposition Park University Park redevelopment plan. This plan was ignored. Unfortunately, it was ignored from the beginning, which would have given an opportunity for a better project to have been evolved from what has now become before you. We support what planning has done in terms of approving the categorical exemption being rescinded and supporting the appeal.
Thank you. Does that conclude your comments?
And also, I would like to mention that
I think we lost Jean Frost.
All right, we'll go to our applicant.
Andrew Brady, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Good afternoon. This is Andrew Brady on behalf of the applicant. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
So earlier today, on behalf the project applicant actually submitted a letter requesting a 2-week continuance of this matter. As you heard, planning very recently reversed its position on this at the last minute, and the applicant has requested a 2-week continuance to allow it to address those issues. It's raised the issue of parking, which is by state law not a CEQA impact under SB 743. And as you heard in the last matter, it raised the issue of cumulative impacts, but under state law, merely listing additional projects without substantial evidence showing actual cumulative impacts is insufficient. We did make that request for a 2-week continuance and would request that that be granted by this committee at this time to allow this project an opportunity to address the latest letter from planning, which reversed its longstanding prior position on the project and on the Class 32 exemption adopted for the project. So we're here requesting the 2-week continuance that was requested by the project applicant via a letter submitted to the committee today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions, comments, discussion on this item? Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I think you heard Mr. Brady just talk about a letter. I think your offices have all received it by now. My question, it was regarding the 2-week continuance. My question is, City Attorney, Madam City Attorney, is there any reason why, is there any a deadline? Is there any reason that we need to move this on to council today?
The decision to continue or not is within the discretion of the committee. If the applicant is in agreement, they're asking for the continuance, and the city agrees, then there's no reason why the committee cannot grant the continuance, but it's entirely up to you and your discretion.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from CD9 here today to talk about whether they're okay with the item being continued?
CD9 is recused from this item, Mr. Lee, so that's why we haven't called on them to speak.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
On the matter.
I did not know about the recusal.
Yeah.
So, seeing as there's no deadline that needs to be met, by moving this item on the council, I move that we, if you had a chance to read the letter like I did, I move that we have this item continued for 2 weeks to the next meeting.
All right, there's been a motion.
Yes, committee
No,
members.
we were waiting on a second. I didn't hear a second to Mr. Lee's motion. I think Mr. Lee.
Second it as a courtesy, Mr. President.
All right, so we got a second to Mr. Lee's motion to continue for 2 weeks. Any discussion on that? All right, we've continued this item for a number of weeks, so the chair would really like to move it off the desk today. So you can call the roll on Mr. Lee's motion. Mr. Mejia?
Yes, the request to continue it to the August 31st meeting, that's our next meeting in 2 weeks. Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson?
No.
No. Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo? Councilmember Bob Blumenfield?
No.
No. Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas?
No.
Councilmember John Lee?
Aye.
So that's 3 noes, 1 yes. The motion does not carry, and we should continue deliberating.
Thank you so much. So I'll make a motion that we grant the appeal. There's specific instructions, Mr. Mejia, if you could read those into the record.
Yes, the action being to grant the appeal and thereby overturn the determination of the South LA Area Planning Commission in approving the environmental clearance for the proposed construction of a new 4-story residential complex with 102 residential units. The project located at 806 West Adams Boulevard, and to state for the record, to adopt the findings in the August 12, 2021 Planning Department report indicating that the project is not categorically exempt from CEQA, and as stated at today's public hearing by the planner.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Mr. Blumenfield. Please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Marquise Harris-Dawson.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo. Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Thanks for trying. Deal, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
No.
That's 4 yes, 1 no. Motion carries.
Thank you so much. That takes us to item number 11.
Yes, item number 11, Councilman, and item 12 are interrelated. Not sure if you want to.
We can consider item 11 and 12 together.
Yes, so item 11 and 12. Item 11, same appellants. It's a report from the East LA Planning Commission, an appeal filed by Susan Lee from the Service International Union, Local 721, and East Side Leads. This is a challenge to the environmental clearance. It's for a 200 guest room mixed-use hotel located in CD 14. Item 12, same appellant. However, the appeal relates to the construction of the conference center with live entertainment. Same appellants.
All right, we'll hear from Department of City Planning on these items.
Good afternoon, Plum Committee. My name is David Moon, Planning Assistant with the City Planning Department, and I will...
Pardon me, can you speak just a little louder and a little slower?
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Perfect, that sounds great.
Sorry, good. I'll repeat again. Good afternoon, Plum Committee. My name is David Moon, Planning Assistant with the City Planning Department, and I will be covering items 11 and 12 on the agenda. I'll be discussing the CEQA appeals involving the sale of alcohol with live entertainment at the Hyatt House Hotel and the USC Conference Center, located in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood. The hotel and conference center were approved by the City Planning Commission in 2015, and since then has been constructed and in operation since the end of 2020. In October 2020, the main plan approvals permitting alcohol sales at both establishments were approved by the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator's determinations were subsequently appealed to the East LA Area Planning Commission by SEIU Local 721. Many of the appellant's concerns were related to noise, nuisance, and public safety impacts associated with the use of the hotel and conference center and the sale and consumption of alcohol. In January, the commission voted 3-2 to deny the appeals and sustain the zoning administrator's decision. In March, the appellants SEIU Local 721 and Eastside Leads appealed the CEQA clearances adopted with the main plan approvals. Based on the appeal points submitted by the appellants, planning staff recommends the Plum Committee to deny the CEQA appeals. The appeal points do not directly address the adopted CEQA clearances, and the appellants have not provided substantial evidence that there will be any impacts related to noise and safety. As such, staff has determined that the projects qualify for a Class 1 categorical exemption and recommends that the Plum Committee to deny the CEQA appeals. Additional details related to the appeal points were addressed in staff's report dated July 29, 2021 that was submitted to the record. That concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, we'll hear from our, it looks like we have a number of appellants, so we'll hear from our first appellant on this item.
Jordan Sassoon, can you please press *6?
Good afternoon, honorable council members. Can I be heard okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Jordan Sisson. I'm a land use CEQA attorney, and here speaking on behalf of appellants Eastside Leads and SEIU Local 721. From the start, this appeal was about securing additional mitigation measures to address noise, public safety, and other nuisance impacts from this hotel's alcohol use, something which my client had been asking since last year. These concerns were supported by expert evidence, were supported and found reasonable by at least 2 area planning commissioners. We had wide community support, including multiple neighborhood councils. So this is substantial evidence and very relevant to the lack of CEQA analysis on the specific master plan approvals. As a special matter, these concerns were largely ignored by the applicant here. And not until our appeals were filed and City 14 stepped in to bring the parties together did any real change happen here. So we thank the Honorable Councilmember De Leon and Planning Director Emma Howard for providing this opportunity and really working to bring the other side to the table, to hear our concerns and to give it real meaningful opportunity to hear our concerns. Through their efforts, there's been some proposed conditions of approval that have been modified and some other voluntary conditions, including clear noise conditions, limits on operations, and monitoring, including quarterly meetings with my client and other USU stakeholders. While we support these recommended changes, it's important to note that many of my client's 15 requested conditions have been left off the table, such as less nighttime use of the pool, restrictions on early morning loading areas, several parking and alcohol-related issues, and some specific deadlines for this future quarterly working group, as well as permanent on-site noise metering, which is relatively inexpensive, have been recommended for other hotel projects, and critical to ensure compliance with the conditions of approval. We believe some of these could be ironed out for a brief 2-week delay. This minor delay is really reasonable. The majority of the concerns have been known to the public for about 9 months, and we just saw proposed language last Thursday. So this is still pretty quick, given we just got a real substantive response. Getting these conditions right now is critical. It's been my client's experience with RC development that once they have their project approvals in hand, promises are forgotten. We strongly urge that the inclusion of at least one permanent noise monitoring and a clear deadline when these community meetings are to be held. These quarterly meetings not only serve to ensure that the hotel and its noise impacts are monitored and addressed, it also provides the necessary opportunity to address wider USC issues affecting the community. These include parking, policing, public safety, and other important issues for my clients. These issues will not disappear. These will only expand as USC expands its footprint. In closing, again, I want to tell you, on behalf of my client, how appreciative
Caller,
we are.
that's your time.
Council District 14. I believe the 2-week extension is
We have a second appellant?
We do not have a second appellant.
Do we have a third or a fourth?
We have an applicant.
On the record, council and committee members, it possibly is a joint appeal by Susan Lee from SEIU 721, and it's also noted on the council, on the Plum Committee agenda, East Side Leads. So if there's anybody representing East Side Leads, represented by Mr. Gideon Krakow.
Jordan Sassoon was from Eastside Leads, and Susan Lee is not identified on this list. She hasn't called in.
All right. So there's been plenty of discussion and opportunity about a second appellant. That person has not come to light. We'll go to the applicant.
Okay. David Galaviz, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Great. Good afternoon, Chairman Harris Dawson and committee members. David Galaviz, Associate Vice President for Community and Local Government Partnerships with USC. In the interest of time and in the interest of handing this over to Dale Goldsmith, I will be brief. On behalf of USC President Carol Foltz, our senior leadership, and our community partners, we would like to thank Councilmember De Leon, his staff, and the Planning Department for their work on this issue. As a university, we are committed to partnering with the Council Office, the City of Los Angeles, our longtime community partners, and the Advocate Trader Day to develop a shared vision for all. The goal of the hotel is to provide a place for family members and patients visiting loved ones in either USC Hospital or other community hospital on the east side, a place to stay that is in close proximity to the family. With that, in the interest of time, I would like to see the remaining time over to Dale Goldsmith with Armbruster Goldsmith and Dale back. Thank you for your time.
All right. If that concludes the report from the applicant, we'll hear from a representative of Council District 14, Ms. Howard.
Yes. Hello, council members. And I do want to note, I think that Pamela Agustin was a representative from Eastside Leads. I don't know if she's been identified. There was some concern from, I think, community members that they hadn't indicated they wanted to speak at the right time. But I don't want to add additional time. I just wanted to note she's here and she may have a perspective.
Is she an appellant or an applicant?
She would, I think, be the Eastside Leads representative who was one of the appellants, but I'm not sure. I would need confirmation from city planning.
The identified representative we have for Eastside Leads is Jordan Sassoon. He's already spoken.
Oh, he's already spoken. Okay, so that group has already spoken. All right.
Great. Thank you. So, good afternoon, council members. My name is Emma Howard. I'm the planning director for Council District 14, Councilmember De Leon. I'm here today to speak regarding the CEQA appeals of planning cases ZA 2020-1128 MPA and ZA 2020-1097 MPA. At our office's request 2 weeks ago, your committee had continued this appeal to give our office time to work with the applicant and appellants in order to better understand the concerns of the community and possible mitigation measures which might be acceptable to both parties. As a result of this continuance, we come today to present modifications to conditions, which our office believes will implement the intent of the plan approval recommended by the Department of City Planning. These modifications are intended to apply to the attachment to the report dated 4/06/21, the conditions of approval attachment that is available to this body under council file number 210371-S1. We recommended modifications to the current conditions of approval be incorporated. The full text of those changes to the conditions were uploaded to the council files for these appeals this morning. So as long as the city attorney concurs that I do not need to read everything into the record, I will paraphrase what's in those items in the council file.
This is Terry Kaufman, Messiah City Attorney's Office. The problem is that this is a CEQA appeal, and it's not appropriate at this time to add conditions or discuss conditions. If you want conditions and the applicant is agreeable, that can be addressed through a plan approval process, but it can't be addressed as part of the CEQA appeal today.
Understood. What I want to note is that our office was proceeding until this morning that we would be able to enter conditions into the record. So I will just note what we have agreed to, and request the Department of City Planning follow up with how we enact those conditions as we understand it. So as submitted to the file, we recommended modifications to the current conditions of approval to address the noise mitigation concerns. I mentioned that those full text of changes to the conditions were uploaded to the council files this morning. And in particular, the recommended modifications mostly focus around how to modify for noise. We also have agreements of some additional offers that the applicant can enact on their own, whether or not there are planning conditions, such as signs regarding no idling, noise reduction signs for patrons, and the formation of a quarterly community working group. That community working group is a key implementation measure. Our office is committed to make sure that we will work as a group to ensure that we are looking as a community and as the applicant towards mitigating any ongoing and persistent noise mitigation issues. Whether or not we get a requirement as of the council action today, our office is very willing to make sure parties meet regularly to discuss their concerns. I do want to thank the applicants and appellants for their sincere work to provide our office with their recommendations. We want to thank the Plum Committee staff of Council District 8, the City Clerk, and the Legislative Analyst's Office in the Department of City Planning, specifically David Woon and Heather Blamiers, in assisting us with this complex modification. There's still some work to come, as I'm understanding from the city attorney, but a great deal of city staff time went into this work, and we thank you for that. And there will be some additional work to come. This is the tip of the iceberg in terms of a long-standing dialogue between the many parties who have a stake in this portion of Council District 14. I want to note that the council member is committed to continuing this work to ensure the presence of large institutions with many employees and visitors can be a benefit to the community as a whole, and that the obligation of our office is to continuously ensure we increase representation and local participation. And most of all, we commit to doing the work. We want to participate as active and engaged members of our community working group, and to thoughtfully suggest measures in all regulatory decisions which are equitable and participatory. So with that said, we would recommend denying the CEQA appeal, and we would ask for recommendations from city planning as to how we can change and modify the plan approval conditions to implement the understandings that we've gained working with our working group over the last 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right, any questions or comments on this item from members? All right, I guess this is a question to the
Yes, sir.
city. Yes. Just a question to the city attorney and Ms. Howard, and I guess the applicant. Would a 1 week, would continuing this item for 1 week allow you all to wrinkle out the challenges that that were noted by the city attorney this afternoon?
Terry Kaufman, Messiah City Attorney's Office. Not in relation to this CEQA appeal. That is, you cannot add conditions during the CEQA appeal. It would be a completely separate project that should be discussed offline with the planning department, and they can give guidance to the applicant and possibly working with the council office to deal with that. It's not part of this proceeding though.
Got it, thank you. And then the applicant and Ms. Howard? If we have the applicant handy. All right, Ms. Howard, you got anything?
I would just add, for the past 2 weeks, we've been operating kind of the way that the request for modifications to conditions were framed to us, we understood that it was an appeal of the plan approvals. It's been clarified that it's a CEQA appeal. And so starting from there, we do have condition modifications that we think everybody would be pleased with that would address noise attenuation. But our understanding is this is not the venue to achieve those aims. So additional time won't change that.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments from members on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Cedillo?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the attention you're bringing to this matter. I am the council member who represents the community, the surrounding community. I grew up in that neighborhood and have a long history and experience both with that area, Lincoln Heights area. I'm the representative, and also with USC. USC is the largest private sector employer of our city, a unionized workplace, and has a lot of contributions to make specifically to that area. As you heard Commissioner Tapia state earlier, as she called in public comment, it is a place that is in great need of this specific type of housing and hotels and community centers. There is a lack and a dearth for places for weddings, quinceañeras, but more so, let me add, and Mr. Ridley Thomas remembers this difficult time period for me in my life. My wife passed away at USC Keck Norris Center. There were no places for us to go and gather, to sit, to purchase food, a beverage. It didn't exist 20 years ago. The growth of that area is important, not just to CD14, but to the entire city, and also to across the street, because Valley Boulevard borders that. What is there outside are train tracks. If you want to do noise reduction, work that out with the people who run the trains, frankly, because that is where noise comes for the residents. It's not a high residential area, as Ms. Tapia noted. You have to go down the street, down Valley, before you get close to any residents, before you get close to Hillside Village and El Sereno. And so those concerns, I appreciate them and respect them, but I think they're probably more appropriate someplace else. But what is important is for that area to become vital, for us to continue to have the growth there, for that whole campus is critical if we're going to address homelessness, if we're going to address the question of housing, if we're going to address the role and responsibility of SC to the communities that surround it. There's a lot of work to be done, but none of it can be done unless we have a robust and prosperous community there. Those workers there in that community make an heroic contribution each and every day. And that hotel will be necessary for visitors, both of the workers, of the patients, and the community in the surrounding area. And so I speak wholeheartedly for the denial of the appeal and moving this project forward. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Noting Mr. Cedillo's powerful and compelling testimony, Mr. Mejia, if there's nothing further from the committee, I'll move that we deny the appeal with specific instructions.
Yes, as to item 11 to deny and 12 to deny the appeal.
4 o'clock, you're going to leave now?
No, I'm not gonna make it.
Yes, as to item 11 and 12 to deny the appeal filed by Susan Lee of SEIU Local 721 and East Side Leads, and thereby sustain the determination of the East LA Area Planning Commission in approving the master plan approval to allow the sale and dispensing of a full line of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption in conjunction with the entertainment and proposed 200 guest room mixed-use hotel for item 11, and for item 12 as it relates to the conference center and live entertainment for the property located at 1550 North San Pablo Street. And so therefore, both appeals are being denied.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Mejia, please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's 5 members, unanimous, Mr. Chair, and carries.
Excellent. That takes us to item number 13.
Item 13, councilmen and committee members, is a categorical exemption. This is a CEQA appeal filed by James Childs. The project is in CD 9. It's for the construction of a 3-story duplex with ground floor interior parking for 6 cars.
All right. We have a report from Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Daniel Mata. I'm the planner for the North University Park Specific Plan. Before you today is the appeal of the environmental clearance of a project located at 1122 West 30th Street, as mentioned before. This CEQA's appeal filed by Jim Childs on behalf of the North University Park Community Association, who is contesting the South Area Planning Commission's determination that the project qualifies for Class 3, Class 31, and Class 32 categorical exemptions. The project, as mentioned before, includes construction of a 3-story building with 2 residential units and an attached ADU, which is located behind an existing historic single-family dwelling in the North University Park Specific Plan area, and the existing historic building was built in 1902. The appeal argues that the project does not qualify for a categorical exemption because the project does not conform with all of the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation due to its height. Additionally, the appellant argues that there was no evaluation of setting and spatial relationships at the project site, and that the project is inconsistent with the applicable general plan policies, and that the project's location in the specific plan area qualifies as an unusual circumstance and triggers an exception to the use of a CE. While the new construction is slightly larger and taller than the existing historic structure, the project meets all of the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and the regulations of the North University Park Specific Plan. As outlined in the appeal response dated August 11th, 2021, staff has addressed the appellant's specific points and maintains that the project qualifies for a CE and does not trigger exceptions to a CE per CEQA guidelines. Staff therefore recommends that the Plum Committee deny the appeal and determine that the project qualifies for a Class 3, Class 31, and Class 32 categorical exemptions. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will hear at this moment from the appellant.
Jim Childs, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Yes, this is Jim Childs for NUPCA. The historic Stabler residence is a contributor to the North University Park Specific Plan. City ordinance require processing for compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines for all historic properties, whether they're in a specific plan, an HPOZ, or a CPIO. Standard 9 requires that new construction, quote, will be compatible with the historic size, scale, proportion, and massing that protect the integrity of the property and its environment. It is universally understood, therefore, that a new infill rear structure should not be dominant to the primary front historic structure. Domination of a building occurs when one building is larger than another through height and or massing and scale. This is a case where bigger is not necessarily better. Application of the standards require that prevailing conditions determine specific actions regarding compatibility. Prevailing is determined by the most commonly occurring height and mass of the historic properties on the block face. The historic block face of 30th Street has a prevailing height and mass of 2 and 2.5 story residence. The developer chose to erect a 3-story structure instead. The director, however, finds for a very subjective interpretation of compatibility and minimizes the need for compliance by the intrusive 3-story building. He finds that the intrusion is only minimally visible, is only slightly taller, mostly hidden, and slightly larger but screened from view. Slightly, mostly, minimal, hidden are not actions that justify compliance or compatibility with the standards. They are not adequate mitigations either. The director is willing to ignore compliance with the standards at 3 feet taller. What about 4 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet? What does slightly become significant? When does a rear structure that is required to be subordinate become overpowering? When it is bigger, according to the standards. When a project is not in compliance with the standards because it is not compatible, as is the case here, it cannot be a Class 32 exemption. The impacts caused by this intrusive, non-compatible 3-story duplex and ADU are not benign and not exempt. By proffering subjective interpretations such as slightly and minimally as excuses or mitigation, the director concedes that such language is needed to justify compliance. Needed because the project fails the test for exemption. It needs, therefore, to have, at a minimum, an initial study and checklist and an MND to address the possible negative impacts as required by CEQA. I ask you to reject the issued categorical exemption and fine for a new environmental review. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the applicant.
Jeff Bizowski, can you please press *6 to unmute? Jeff, can you please press *6 to unmute? Caller, I can see that you've unmuted yourself. You can begin your public comment.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Thank you, council members, for your time and consideration this afternoon. My name is Jeff Bukowski. I am the applicant and architect for this project. Additional thanks to Daniel Mata from the Department of City Planning, Office of Historic Resources, for your recap of the project. This project was taken to the North University Park Specific Plan Design Review Board twice for consultations, where the project's qualifications and conformance with the specific plan were discussed. Upon each round, revisions were made in response to all requests made by board members and community members alike. Some of these requests related to bulk, height, parking, massing, landscape design, and material detailing. In response to the justification of the appeal, I will speak briefly upon each item. Regarding the first item of the appeal for bulk and height, our office created several visual studies from the public way along 30th Street, where we accurately showed the proposed project in relation to the properties in question and its neighboring structures. This portion of 30th Street has 4 consecutive 2.5-story structures, each of which are 33 feet in height or greater. Each of these buildings have considerable depth and minimal side yards and creates a visual barrier from 30th Street to the rear yards. While the appeal makes a clear distinction between a 2.5 and 3-story structure, this argument is one of semantics. The height and placement of the existing historic structures in a close-together fashion screens the proposed structure regardless of the number of stories of the front structure. Directly adjacent to the east at 1116 30th Street, a similar duplex structure with ground floor parking was recently built and approved, reinforcing that this out-of-scale argument is not applicable as this project fits in with the existing context. Regarding the architectural styles described within the appeal, the proposed design reflects upon and respects existing single-family dwelling with respect to articulation of the roofline, window treatment, stepped massing, and landscape integration as a buffer between the two structures. Being transitional, the front contributor exemplifies many such principles which may be responded to and celebrated by a new construction building, as is proposed today. Our office meets objective design criteria set forth by the preservation plan with respect to roof, window, and massing treatment, among others. Regarding CEQA applicability, the project is previously described does not provide any adverse impacts or cause damage to any scenic resources, traffic, noise, air quality, or otherwise. The proposed development fits in with surrounding properties and all objective zoning requirements with respect to density, height, area, and its adjacent 3 properties, each of which has similar scale and siting on the property and therefore qualifies as a Class 32 exemption. Given these facts, I ask that you committee members vote to deny the appeal. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Want to get any comments we have from Council District 9? Mr. Diaz?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Councilman. My name is Christopher Diaz and the planning assistant for the Office of Councilman Curran Price. As it stands, we have no position on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments or discussion from members on this item? Seeing none, the chair is recommending that we deny with specific instructions, which I'll move after you've read, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, to deny the appeal filed by James R. Childs and thereby sustain the determination of the South Area Planning Commission in approving the environmental clearance, a categorical exception from CEQA, for the proposed project that involves the development of a 3-story duplex with ground floor interior parking for 6 cars, landscaping, restoration work to the existing historic primary structure at the front of the lot, located at 1122 West 30th Street in CD9, and as stated for the record by the city planner at today's public hearing.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson is chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas. Okay, and Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's 4 members, and it carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. That takes us to public comments. We want to open up the phones. Folks, I believe we missed a few people on item number 10. Mr. Kirby, Mr. Weiss, and Ms. Winsberg. So we could open up general public comment at this time for those folks.
Noel Weiss, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Noel Weiss, can you please press *6 to unmute? Noel Weiss, can you please press *6 to unmute?
Next.
David Kirby had not called in.
Next.
The other caller also has not called in.
All right. So for the record, we've called on David Kirby, Noel Weiss, and Susan Winsberg, and we haven't heard from them. Mr. Mejia, can you confirm that this concludes our business for today?
Mr. Chair, this concludes the meeting for today.
Excellent. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.